What's up, everyone? Today, I'm joined by Devon King. He is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, and world traveler. We talk about real estate investing, wholesaling, and optimizing your life for happiness. I'm Jake Garay from the Garay team with Berkshire Hathaway, and you're listening to my podcast, Selling the Suburbs. I'm sitting down with real estate agents, investors, experts, and various professionals throughout the industry. On Selling the Suburbs, we're discussing the truth about real estate, entrepreneurship, and the ever-changing housing market. So you just got back from
Japan and South Korea. Yeah. Oh, it was awesome, dude. Amazing.
I feel like every time I'm on Instagram and I'm like following you, you're in a different country, traveling all over the place.
I try my best, dude. I try to, take the success from business and the freedom and put it to use,
Yeah. So you're able to manage everything that you have remote?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sure. So you've built some teams and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of just I'll answer phone calls when I'm out there. If they go to voicemail, I'll answer them when I get back.
Yeah.
I kind of try to just be a little bit more chill about it.
Yeah.
So, but if I have people here that I could send leads to and stuff. So I have my partner, Matt, he's usually here. And then if I get a call or a lead there, I'll send it to him and he'll work it. And then when I get back, I'll usually have a deal or something,
That's
or
awesome.
I won't,
So take us back kind of to the beginning for your real estate career. How did you get interested in real estate? Was it something that growing up you were always interested in? What led you into the investment side of things?
Yeah. So you always heard the stories about people doing real estate, being successful. And I was always flipping things back in high school, like iPhones and bicycles and quads and whatever I could get my hands on to make some money. So kind of saved up some money and then, was watching YouTube videos, getting the entrepreneurial bug.
Yep.
And came across Phil Pustiowski,
Yep.
So read his book, watched his videos. And then I kind of was like, yo, this is the way to go, real estate, if you want to make some money. So my buddy got these tickets in the mail for a free seminar. So me, Greg, Greg Helbeck, and my other buddy, Kevin, we went to this seminar. We paid $1,000 upcharge to do the weekend retreat or whatever. Went to that, and then we just kind of started rolling from there. But it took almost a year to actually do a deal. But that was pretty much the start. Yeah.
Did you start with a wholesale deal or a flip?
The first one was a flip. So I bought a 2-family in Kingston for $25,000, and I ended up selling that place for $55,000. And I split it with someone. We didn't do any work to it. We just bought it.
So you just bought it closed and
bought it closed, cleaned it up. I literally remember going there, cleaning it myself and putting it. I did an open house on Zillow.
Yep.
Met all the buyers there, and then someone ended up buying it for $55,000. We pocketed $13,000 each, which was great
Not
at the
bad,
time. It wasn't bad.
What year was this?
This was 2016 or 17. One of those. So,
yeah. So that's pretty wild. I mean, thinking about those prices now and
I know, dude, it's crazy.
To what,
and then
what
the second property was 30-something thousand, and the third one was 50-something, and then I just kind of went up and up from there.
Yeah.
So
how did you? Was the plan always to focus on flip? Everybody has different progression, right?
Yeah.
I talked to Greg. Greg has been on the show, and he was like, he was all wholesaling. Then he started flipping. Then he started, buying and holding. Did you have a natural progression, or was it kind of just over time saying, oh, let me, keep some of these things?
So yeah, it was definitely a natural progression. I really liked the first one I did where I didn't have to do any work. Bought it, fixed it up, or didn't fix it up, and sold it, and made money. So I that's kind of my bread and butter. I try to just buy, do the minimal amount of work possible, take really nice pictures, clean them out, and then list them on the market. And I find that you can make just as much as rehab, doing a full blown rehab as you can, doing it the other way I'm talking about. So yeah, it was a natural progression of doing that. And then I would get leads in and I'd be like, it's a good deal, but I don't want it. And then I would, try to find a buyer. So that led into wholesaling. And then, the more money you stack up, you're kind of I need to focus on the long-term game. And then that's when I started looking at rentals a little bit more and, picking up those over the years. So that's, it's definitely been a natural progression.
So, because you mentioned you kind of would do the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at a deal, how do you comp it when it's, in like the condition that it's as is.
Yeah.
Like, how do you decide, oh, I should do this. This is really worth it. Obviously, you've done a bunch of these now, so I think you probably have a pretty good idea of what adds and doesn't add value.
For sure.
But, you know, somebody will look at, say, a 3-bed, 2-bath house and say, oh, you know, all fixed up, it's worth $400,000, right? Like, how do you make that adjustment for the condition to say, this is what it's going to sell for?
Yeah. So a lot of the times you could find comps where like a grandma lived in it and there's old carpets and like they haven't changed the cabinets since the 70s. And like those houses are pretty prevalent like on the market.
All the time.
You could find a lot of those that have sold. And if you go into like the houses that I'm going to, they're kind of very similar, but there's just like junk everywhere. And you have to like, you just have to like look past that and be like, all right, if I clean all this stuff out, like the cabinets are still working, you know, everything in the bathroom is working, the shower, the toilets, you know, maybe you could switch out a vanity or whatever, or paint the house, paint the inside, paint the outside. But if you do those things, it's probably very similar to the condition of like grandma's house that just sold on the market. So I just try to comp to those. And then, you know, foreclosures will go for a little less because like the utilities aren't working and stuff like that. Most of the houses I'm buying, everything is working. It's just outdated and old. So
Gotcha.
So I'll look at those, like the foreclosures, and usually add a little bit more. And I'll try to look for those, you know, just old, outdated houses that sell. And usually they sell for pretty good money, you know?
It's pretty funny because when I work with a lot of like first-time home buyers who are looking to house hack, right, buy a multifamily, I've kind of seen this trend with people who've done really well with buying like the old owner-occupied multifamily that's super dated. And I always say, like, you don't want like the completely fixed up, fully renovated. You're going to pay 25, 30% premium for that. But you can get a 10, 15, 20% discount even on the market for grandma's house.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean? That they've lived there for 30 years and it's well cared for and all of that, but it's just not been updated or touched.
For sure, yeah.
And everybody who seems to kind of go and gravitate towards that does really well because then they do go in and fix it up and clean it up when they're keeping it. And then they get top dollar rents and, you know, they're renting a place for $2,000 a unit that they paid, you know, $250,000 for.
Exactly.
And so they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and those houses are all over the place because, like, you know, grandma doesn't want to fix the house up. And, like, a lot of people just don't want to rehab a house. And I don't want to either. So that's why I like to buy and then just kind of do the minimal. And it's good for people also that can, like, you know, they're buying at a discount and they can, like, move in and do the work over time.
Right.
Instead of, like, spending top dollar and, like, you know, being strained with the monthly payment of their house. They could kind of move in and be like, all right, we're going to paint, you know, this week. And then in a couple months, we'll do this and that. And they can do it over time. So it's good for people as well. A lot of people are looking for them in the market.
Well, I was just going to say that's a good point because your buyer pool is going to be everybody who's looking for the completely fixed up, but also everybody who maybe wants that but can't afford it.
Exactly.
And is willing to do that work themselves. So you may have 2 times the amount of buyers. And in this limited inventory market, I'm sure you probably get bidding wars on like every single house you put on the market.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's a ton of people looking for those types of houses for sure.
So when you're, you know, looking at have you done like a full renovation on something?
Yeah, I've done plenty of them for sure. And it's good. It's just kind of, it's a pain in the ass, you know? Like you gotta be on top of it. You gotta be on top of the contractors. You gotta make sure everything's on time. You know, it's just a lot more work, you know? So if you can make a similar amount of money or like, you know, let's say you could fix a house up and the ARV is 400 or you could sell it, you know, 325 as is, but you got to put 50 into it. You might make like 15, 20, 25 more, but the, you know, the velocity of money and like, you know,
how long it's going to take.
Yeah, exactly. And you could take that money and put it into another property and make more. So you got to kind of, I don't have like a spreadsheet where I run these things. But I think about it, I'm like, do I feel like doing this?
Right. How many like houses can you work on? How many projects have you been working on at a time? Like what's the most that you kind of like where you're at, okay, I'm at my capacity now?
It depends. I mean, like we'll do like, you know, 5 or so at once. Like there might have been a time where I've done more, but.
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to manage.
It's a lot if you're doing rehabs for sure. But yeah, if we're doing like a full rehab, like we can only do like maybe 3 or 4, you know, but like we could buy more, but different exit strategies.
Yep. And now how do you decide, you know, if I'm going to flip it, if I'm going to keep it, if I'm going to wholesale it, you know, is it kind of just looking at what projects you're working on at the time? Or do you have like a certain criteria that you're saying, oh, I can make 20% here or I can keep it and, you know.
I don't really have a criteria. I'm just kind of like, it has to do with the projects I have going on at the time. Like if I just sold everything at once and I have like a bunch of money and a good deal comes in that's like kind of close to my house, and I'm like, oh, the rent numbers make sense. Then I'm like, all right, I could buy this long term,
Yep.
you know. But if I have a ton of money out and like another deal comes in, then I'm like, all right, maybe I should wholesale this,
Right,
you know. So
right.
like, yeah, I don't have like a specific formula, but definitely like it depends on the deals I have, the deal flow. Usually if I'm kind of dry on deals, if a deal comes in, I'm gonna try to maximize it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna like be like, all right, maybe we should rehab this
Right,
or whatever, you know
right,
what I mean?
right.
So yeah, definitely different things depending on different times in the business.
So how are you finding your deals?
Yeah. So we do a bunch of things. We do mail, direct mail to people. We do Facebook ads. We do Google ads. We do Google organic. I buy from wholesalers.
Mm-hmm.
Was doing bandit signs back in the day, but you know, got tired of people beeping at me and yelling at me, stapling things.
People
to poles.
calling and telling
Yeah.
you to take your signs down.
I still have a bunch of signs in my basement, but like I just can't get myself to put them out. And I've tried to hire people to do it, and it's just like you just don't know that they're putting them out,
Right.
you know, because they get taken down so much.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, I put them out, and then they got taken down. You're like, you didn't put them out,
Right, right.
So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that we try to get deals, but yeah, I work with new people, and I always tell them like, you know, I'll help you out as much as I can,
Yep.
and then like usually they'll bring me a deal just to be like, oh, you know, what do you think about this property? And I'll be like, oh, it's great, like I'll buy it, you know.
Right.
So yeah, a bunch of different ways we find deals.
I was going to say, I'm sure you probably get people from social media reaching out, and
yeah,
you know, that's a big.
I love those.
Yeah, that's the best because you know, you're putting out content, you're kind of showing what you're doing, you're making it known to people that hey, you know, I'm out here, I'm buying houses, I'm doing all this stuff, and then if you take someone on, kind of help them out, there's going to be a steady source of deals from all those people because everybody, so many people, I feel like, and I don't know if it's just because of the timing of like, you know, when we all, because I got started as an agent in 2015, but I was doing the investment side a little bit before that. And I don't know if it was like just the timing of when, like same sort of time frame you got in the business, but it seems like everybody under the age of like 35 is interested in real estate.
Literally.
And I don't know if it was always like that or if it's just, you know, a recent thing, but especially the last, I feel like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think real estate has always been that thing that's like the bright, shiny object. Where it's like, oh, all these people are so rich in real estate. Like, I want to do that. Like, literally, I don't think there's one like friend that I have that hasn't been like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna talk to you one day. Like we're gonna get lunch and we're gonna talk about real estate. I'm like, all right,
we'll see. Yeah.
But the people that do, you know, like it's great because then you can help them out, and then you know they can help you out too by bringing you deals and stuff, and it becomes a win-win situation for everyone.
It is a very collaborative industry, whether you're on the investment side, whether you're on the brokerage side, like working together is how you can just, the sheer quantity of deals that you can do is so much greater when you have a team.
For sure, yeah. I mean, success takes people for sure. Yeah. You always need people.
So going back to sources of deals, is there one clear source that you have that's like, you know, hey, 60% of our deals is from this?
I don't really think so. I mean, I was honestly going through this yesterday, and like I have a few deals right now, and I'm like, a couple of them are from Google, a couple of them are from wholesalers, a couple of them are from mail, like one of them is from being an agent. So it's like they really are like so random and all over the place. And I try to do I kind of do the shotgun approach. So I mean, some people are way more narrow and niche focused, but I'm just kind of like, all right, oh, this is working, let's put some more money over there. And like, oh, this is working, let's put some more money over there. So
have you noticed a difference, say, from when you got started 2017, 18, 19, 20 versus now? Because I know I talk to a lot of investors that are struggling to find deals. Yeah. And part of the issue, and I tell them, I'm like, you know, the issue is for a lot of sellers, back then it was a buyer's market, right? Yeah. So there was a lot more distressed sellers than there were buyers. Now there's a lot more buyers than there are sellers. So it's, are you seeing that? Are you having more competition? Are you seeing people kind of, oh, I'm willing to, you know, I saw people that would make, say, 20% on every single flip that are now saying, I'll do it for 10% profit just because I need to keep busy. I need to have something in the pipeline.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really think it's that much different. Like, no. I think you just have to adapt, you know, like as the market adapts, you just adapt, and finding deals has always been the hardest part of this business. Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's always going to be hard. So you always have to like be doing different things. Like in the beginning, like the first two like big deals I got were from bandit signs, and they were literally in the same bandit sign. Like I was in New Windsor.
Best ROI ever.
Yeah, there's this place called the Five Corners, and it's like where 5 intersections meet. And yeah, I literally put bandit signs at every stop, and I got 2 deals off of that in like 2 weeks, and they were big deals. And I was like, oh my god, like I'm just gonna start putting these out.
I'm gonna set up a stand out there.
Yeah. So then after that, like whatever, I might have got like 5-6 deals, like more, and then like for some reason, like I don't know if it was like after COVID or something, but like they just died. Like I haven't gotten a deal off a bandit side in a while, and I think it's just because like I don't know, either sellers are just becoming more like tech savvy, going online, and like I don't know, or there's just like a ton of bandit signs out now. Like everyone was on the bandwagon, so yeah, there's shifts like that. But then you're just like, all right, I'm gonna stop doing those, and I'm gonna do more mail. Like
there's probably like a study that can be done on like the psychology of how someone picks who they're going to sell to, right? Because you think about it, if you're in your car and you see a bandit sign, you're probably just calling on a whim.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh, let me just call and just see. So like, maybe those sellers are now selling to people who are sending them direct mail, or they're listing them online because they're seeing, postcards from real estate agents and stuff like that. But
for sure, there's different people that call different things, and like some people will just never call a Facebook ad, but they would call a bandit sign. There's just like, it's just, you don't know what it is, but there's just those people. So
well, that's why I think like you said before, having multiple streams of deal flow that are kind of bringing in leads. Yeah, you're right. You're not gonna, like, if someone doesn't have social media, then the Facebook, Google ads are not going to work, right? So it just depends on that demographic and that person. And it's funny because a lot of the investors who I talk to who are doing a lot of business and are very active, they said the exact same thing. They're like, deal flow isn't an issue whatsoever. It's just, it's different, right? Different sources. It looks different. We're getting them from other people, whatever the case may be. And on the brokerage side of things, it's kind of the same thing. Deal flow for agents is basically like listings, right? So if you're getting listings and if you have the inventory, you're able to just basically sell it right away. Yeah. And the top agents have consistently continued to get a ton of listings, even when the market and transactions have gone down over the last couple of years.
And they'll continue to do that.
Right. Exactly. It's just different ways of getting them and adapting, and same sort of thing. It's like you got to put your hands out in every different basket, try every single source, and just see what is working. Because Facebook or Instagram or Google could change their algorithm, and your entire deal flow could disappear for 6 months.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, a lot of these things, like, you don't have control over. Like, you don't have control over the Facebook algorithm or the Google algorithm, or like all those different things. Like, you don't have control, so you have to just try all these different things and adjust as you go. And that's the way you consistently get deals.
So lead comes in.
Yeah.
How are you, basically vetting that lead and saying, okay, this is a deal I want to buy, or it's not? Yeah. How do you decide if it's worth it?
I mean, I just call them on the phone and say, hey, what's going on? What's the address? What's the condition of the property? They tell me, oh, the tenant trashed it. Like, I gotta sell this place. I'm like, oh, sounds excellent. Like, I'll be there tomorrow at this time. Yep. You go there, you just talk to them, and then, I try to get a number out of them first. Yep. Whoever talks first loses or something. Yep. I try not to, make anyone lose, but,
I know what you mean, though.
But, so I try to get them to just tell me how much they want, and then, we negotiate from there. But I don't really have, like, any serious, like, database where I'm like, I run my numbers through this, like 70% of ARV minus repairs. I'm like, oh, this sounds like a good deal. Yep. I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to run the numbers, make an offer. If they like it, they like it. If not, we part ways as friends. Right. Like, I try to keep it, like, very simple. And I think sellers like that, like some sellers like the super professional thing. And then some like, oh, I'm just a very personable dude. Yeah. Like, I'm coming to buy your house. Like, here's my reviews. Like, check it out, take it or leave it type of thing. Right. So that's how I kind of try to run the business.
And you probably get people who will call you 2, 3, 4 months later and say, oh, we're actually willing to take that offer now because you leave it on good terms.
Of course, fortune's in the follow-up for sure. It. Yeah, I've had people, even like, people will keep like a piece of direct mail in their drawer for like years, and they're like, hey, I spoke to you years ago, and I kept your number, and like years later, I'm like, oh my God, like, that's crazy.
We've had people that have done that. Oh, you sold our neighbor's house. We got this just listed or just sold card, and we've had it for 7 years, and it's like, I can't even remember where I put like something I got yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's funny how people do that. Yeah, it's great.
So in your portfolio now of rental property, kind of take me through, what does that look like? Like, how do you decide, oh, I want to keep this? Is it, condos, multifamily, single family, a little bit of everything?
Yeah. So right now I have 11 rentals and most of them are singles. So I think it's spread amongst like 7 different properties. I have a few condos, townhouse. I have actually 2 townhouses, a few single families, 2 families, and a 3 family.
Nice.
So that's what I have. And I plan to keep growing that. I kind of took a little break, like I bought like all those between like 2019 and or 2018 and like 2020. I was like, all right, interest rates are low. And I was like, that's one of the things, like I hit it right. I was like, all right, interest rates are low.
Prices were good.
Yeah. I was like, this is the time. I was listening to all like the rental bigger pocket stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. So a lot of properties I was just like running for rentals. And so I bought most of them then, and then COVID hit. And that's when the interest rates were low during COVID, I was still buying. And then when the interest rates started to go up, like past like 5%, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just like kind of focus on flipping. It was a little harder to make the numbers work for rentals. So for the past couple of years, I've been maybe buying like one a year, like picking up one a year for like the last 2 years. But now I'm kind of like, all right, I'm gonna start picking some more up again. Saved up some more money and like over the past couple of years just flipping. And I'm like, all right, I got to put this money to work. So,
all long-term tenants, no like Airbnb, short-term, any of that stuff?
Yeah, I haven't really messed with it. I try to I just don't want any headaches. I want I want to just like be able to have fun and travel and do what I want to do. I don't want to like deal with have a tenant moving in and out every day. Just put a long-term guy in there. Call me if something breaks. I'll call the plumber, and that's it. So
in those, do they basically take care of everything? They pay utilities. I mean, that's nice about the condos, the townhouses,
for
single family. It's the easiest type of rental.
It really is. And I I have a condo, and like the heat and hot water is included. Like there's not even a boiler or a hot water heater. Wow. It's like literally there's nothing that could go wrong in this place.
That's great.
So at that place, I'd never get calls.
Yeah.
So I mean. What was the question? I don't know.
No, I was just saying that's it. They pay everything.
So they pay all the utilities. Yeah. So I try to. I mean, the 1-2 family that I have that I live in, I pay the electric and
house
the heat.
hack.
Yeah. So
you're there. I mean, that almost doesn't count.
I bought the house from a wholesaler actually, and so I live in that. Tenant lives upstairs, and I pay all the utilities because it's one meter. So. But it works out because I live there and like he basically pays the mortgage. Right. I pay the utilities, but it is what it is.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you bought all those directly from everything off market,
everything was off
basically
market.
Leads that came in through you.
Yeah, and I do a lot of burr properties. Yep. So I buy them cash, rent them or refinance, rehab, whatever the acronym is, and then repeat.
So you talked about keeping things simple. I mean, it sounds like everything that you do, you try and optimize for simplicity, right? So the flips, if you can get in there, do the bare minimum, just keep it simple and easy. Same thing with the rentals. We talked about you traveling a lot. How do you manage, the rentals, the buying of properties, projects under contract, all of that, while you're in Japan or Europe or wherever the hell you are next?
So I try to optimize my life for literally like peace of mind and freedom. So I literally just have like an Evernote and a Google Sheets, and I'm like, all right, these are the deals I have. These are the things I need to do for them. I have my contract. I have like my main contractor. I have a plumber. I have an electrician. Like I have each person for each individual job. And if a job needs to be done, I send them over. They send me videos and stuff. Like everything can be done through like text and phone. You know what I mean? Like a lot of video updates from contractors and stuff. A lot of following up is on the phone. So the lead comes in. If I'm in Japan, I send it to my buddy Matt, who you should have on the show also.
Absolutely.
And he'll take care of that. Like I have different people that are able to do different things. So it's honestly very simple. Like I can go away.
Sounds very, very straightforward, very simple. Obviously, I think, I have a client who kind of has a similar, he's much more involved, right? He's hands-on, but I would say everything he does, he like dumbs it down to the simplest principles. Yeah. And it kind of sounds like you have that same sort of approach where you don't try and overcomplicate things. Like you said, not trying to get into like these data and analytics and everything else. Like if it's working, great. If it's not working, we're going to go to something else. And you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, and for other people, like that works. But like for me, it's just like, all right, keep it simple, stupid,
Yeah.
or, you know, and just like keep it just chill. Like I just want my life to be fun
Right.
and like enjoyable. I don't want to be like waking up every day and crunching numbers and doing all this stuff. Like I want to go hiking, I want to travel,
Yep.
I want to snowboard, I want to do all these things, and I want to make a lot of money at the same time.
Of course.
So I'm trying to like optimize for all of these things at once, you know?
Yeah, no, and I will say it's definitely not easy, right? Like obviously you have a very unique skill set.
It's simple but not easy.
Yeah, and I think you've kind of systematized and you've built this team and you've got people in place and you know you've got a really nice, well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there were growing pains along the way, and
Of course,
it wasn't
yeah.
you know it wasn't like this the whole time.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of hard work and dedication to get it to that point where you know like, hey, this is what I need to do. Like you said,
Yeah.
I've got my checklist. I've got my system of, okay, we buy a property. This is what needs to be done. This is who's going to do it. All of that. Obviously, that's a skill set in and of itself to create that. But it is all things that anybody can do. It's just a matter of, do they want to go through the trial and error of actually doing it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like Gary Keller, the one thing, like just taking the thing that's in front of you and like that's the most important and taking care of it. And then once you do that, you can build a system around that and, you know, take care of it. And I mean, the 4-hour work week is like super helpful for me and like the frameworks and stuff like that. So if anyone listening hasn't read that book, like
That's
totally
that book is amazing for that.
Love that book.
Like you read it and you're like, this seems so simple.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, it really is not that complicated.
It's really not. Yeah. And he starts out the book. He's like, I had this business. And then I was like, I went to Argentina and like learned how to tango dance and my business exploded. And you're like, what is going on here? But it's true. It really makes sense.
It is very, like even the one thing, right? Like, and for, you know, you get to a certain point where there are a couple pieces of your business that are moving and that you've got to take care of. But when you really don't like simplify things down to like the core of what's at your business, there's things that you do that make you money. And then there's everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if you just prioritize those couple of things, everything else just becomes noise.
Exactly. Yeah. You take care of the things that matter the most, and everything else kind of falls into place for sure.
So as you kind of went from the beginning of your career till now, how much of your systems that you have, the team, all of that was intentional versus just being out there doing deals and just opportunities coming your way and then just adapting to it?
Mostly the second for sure.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, I didn't, none of this like happened on purpose. It's just kind of like, it just evolved over time. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, this is what we got to do. And this is what we got to do. And then I was like, all right, I guess when this breaks, I call this person. When this breaks, I call this person. When this happens, this is what I need to do. So totally natural evolution. I
talk to so many people, right? Especially now, Bigger Pockets is like this big forum that's great. It's created this culture, and so many people read all the books. They read, you know, every business book, every real estate book. They listen to the podcast. They do all these different things. They hear someone like you or someone like Greg talk about your business and your system and all of this, and it sounds great, but they think that they need to have like a 50-step business plan on how to get from where they are today with like 0 properties, 0 money to where you are. And every single person, when you actually talk to them, is like, I just kind of did a bunch of shit and figured it out along the way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's literally like that with anything. And everyone's like, oh yeah, you know, I got to build a logo and get an LLC. And you're like, dude, please, like you have no assets to protect. Why are you getting an LLC? Like you need to make money to be able to protect it. Like everyone just wants to, because those things are easy, you know, but
I literally have that conversation. They're like, Bigger Pockets says I need to have an LLC for my rental property. I'm like, you're buying a 2-family, you're living in 1 unit and you're putting 3% down.
Yeah.
You're buying a house for $300,000. You have $9,000 in equity. Like you're not protecting anything.
I know.
Every attorney's going to look at you and be like, we're not suing them. They have no money.
You're just making like your tax situation more complicated.
Right. You're paying an extra $200 to $300 a year to file an extra return, opening your eyes, you know, the government up to everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of a 50-page business plan, what you need to do is just talk to a lot of people.
Right.
Like, you need to like cold call leads. You know what I mean? And send out, like you need to market, learn how to market.
Go out and network with people. Talk to people who actually have the skill set and develop, like, just honestly, one of the things that I'm seeing more and more, both on the agent side and the investor side, it's just people skills.
Yeah.
You know, you can figure everything else out. You can figure out how to analyze the deal. There's systems online that you can go to, all of that. But so many people lack the ability to even ask for help or ask for guidance, and B, just even have that conversation and make people feel comfortable. Because whether you're an agent trying to win someone's business or you're an investor trying to buy their house, so much of whether or not they do business with you is if they trust you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the people skills to build that trust and rapport with them, they're never going to do business with you anyway.
Yeah. And this is where like mentors come into play too.
Yeah.
You know, like the mentor will be like, dude, like get off of this 50-page business plan. Like this is what you need to do.
Right.
And like, you know, listening to podcasts, reading books and stuff, it's all great. You know, like those, you need to listen to people that are actually doing something and then just try to follow what they're saying.
Right.
Because they won't tell you to go get an LLC and stuff. That's just like you're creating that from some stupid form you read or something. Like,
exactly.
Just
some
listen
comment
to the people that are actually doing it and then, you know, do what they say.
Yeah. And I also think listening to the right people, right?
Exactly.
Because there's so many online gurus that are selling you a course, selling you a system, selling you my business plan, my XYZ. Like, and it's really just getting down to those couple of actionable items that you can actually go out. You know, so many things are like trying to be inspirational or aspirational or motivational.
Literally
instead of just being like, hey, go do X, Y, and Z. Like it's a simple equation. Go get some leads, meet with them, make some offers, buy a house, flip it.
Simple as that.
Repeat.
Simple as that.
You don't have to go and do all these other things. You're just complicating everything else and giving yourself things that you may think you suck at that aren't even really involved in what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Grant Cardone talks about like getting rid of mentors. Like he's like, you guys all have too many mentors. Like everyone is your mentor online nowadays. Like everyone you see on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, like you need to just find one or two people and like listen to everything they say.
Yep.
And if you did that, then you'd be, you know, way closer than listening to like, oh, this guy said to do this. And this guy said to do this.
And they're contradicting each other and I don't know who's right.
And then you get analysis paralysis and you don't do anything.
You're like, I got to get to the bottom of who's right in this one thing.
Exactly.
Instead of focusing on like something entirely different.
It goes back to the one thing. It's just like focus on like one mentor and do what they say, one thing at a time, and just, you know, that'll snowball and then you'll be doing something.
So for you, have you had anybody that you've had like one-on-one mentor coaching? Have you gone?
Yeah.
I know you said it started with like $1,000 upsell course, which I think every investor has done at some point or another.
Yeah. No. So my mentor story kind of started, you know, Ty Lopez, obviously.
67 steps, baby.
So literally like one of the first YouTube videos I watched that like got me started was his
Here in my garage.
Was literally that video, no joke. And I was like, dude, like this, like I was mind blown when I saw that. And like I literally watched that video. Like he had the ad, and then you would go to his website. Yes. And that video was like
that's like one of the best, highest converting YouTube ads of all time.
It's like the highest watched YouTube video.
Literally.
One of them, besides like Gangnam Style or something. so yeah, I went to his website. I literally watched this video for like 4 hours. I'm like, where's this guy going with this? But so then at the end, like I was like, I don't know what he said, but he said something good. Like, so I remember he said mentors, read books, whatever. And I was going to college, and the last semester you had to do an internship, and you didn't go to class. So this is like the best thing I got out of college was this one like program that they had. Yeah. So I was like, all right, this is like the time, like the mentor thing, all this stuff. Like I need to find someone that's doing real estate, because this is like right after I did the seminar and stuff like that. Yep. So I was searching for someone. I ended up I was talking to like a realtor brokerage or whatever. I almost did it with them, and then I met. I was like, I don't really like. I want to do the realtor thing, but I was like, I really want to do the investing side. So I went on Craigslist. I was just happened to be on Craigslist, like looking for good deals. And I called this dude, and he's like, yeah, you know, I'm selling the place because I got like too many projects right now. Like, just want to get rid of it. And he sounded like young. And I was like, oh, like, what's going on? Like, would you want to meet for coffee? So I met him at Middletown, Starbucks, and we kind of hit it off. He was super cool. Like, he climbed mountains and traveled all over. He was young and he was rich. And I was like, oh, this guy's got it going on. Yeah. So after we had coffee, he had to go pick up money from tenants or something, and he took me along, and I was like, and he had a junk removal business, and I was like, dude, like I need to do an internship, like I'll work for you for free in your whatever junk removal business, and then you teach me what you know on the side with real estate. This is like Ty Lopez 101 right here.
Yep. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. So he was like, yeah, sounds good. So I did the internship with him, and I remember pitching it to my college, because you had to like tell the teachers what you were doing. And they were like, I don't know about this. Like this young dude, like he doesn't really have like a business,
like a conventional business.
Yeah, it wasn't conventional at all.
Right.
And I was like, I don't care what you guys say. Like I'm doing this. Like, I was literally was like, look, if you don't want me to do this, like I'm just not doing it. Like I'm gonna drop out and don't do this.
Right.
Like, it's either you say yes or I'm doing it. Like I don't
I'm
care
gonna
what
do
you
it with
say.
or without you, basically, without your approval or
exactly.
not.
So they were like, all right, like I guess this kid's doing it. We got to say yes. So I did it, and that was at the end of that was when I split the first deal with him, the 2-family in Kingston.
Okay.
So we split that house, and then we split the second house, and then he helped me out with the third one, and then I was kind of off to the races there.
That's awesome.
And yeah, we're still good buddies. Like we went to Peru together, we went to Nicaragua together. And yeah, he's still around. You should get him on the show too.
I would love to. That sounds like he's got a great story.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So since then, have you had anybody else that you've like, I know some people, they get to a certain level, they go into coaching, they go into networking groups, all that different stuff. Have you done any of that or?
I've done some like life coaching. I did like this Tony Robbins thing, which was pretty cool. I've done like, I have a lot of friends around me that are successful and we kind of like all feed on each other.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, I just like consume so many like podcasts and YouTube videos and like books. And I'm like, all right, like, those are like the virtual mentors. But I probably could use another mentor, honestly. Like, there's no point in your life when you shouldn't have one.
I agree.
In all areas too, like relationships, health, business, everything.
It's so funny because, people hear about that for playing sports, or they hear about it for working out, fitness, or for a business. But you're 100% right. Like, you should have that person that's there to kind of guide you, who's more successful, more experienced, who has that to kind of hold you. Number one, accountability, I think, is so big.
For sure.
Right? Just holding, calling you on your shit and being like, hey, you said you were going to do this. You didn't do it. You wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Where'd that guy go?
Especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're like, it's all on you. Right. So like, if you don't do it, you can be like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it the next day. And then you just never get to it.
Or sometimes it's the opposite, where it's like, you got it. Like, you've done a really nice job of balancing both. But I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, they get so involved in their business, everything else gets neglected.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
You gotta prioritize everything. Yeah. If you don't prioritize going to Japan and stuff, it's not gonna just happen on its own. You gotta put that on the calendar and plan it out. That stuff takes a lot of work.
How many business owners have you met who were saying, I was gonna do this, I was gonna do that, but I never had time to be, I never had time away from my business. My business was growing, and it's like,
how many people in general? I mean, everyone says that. I had to work. I had to do this. I had to do this. It's like,
which is kind of screwed up when you think about it, because obviously everything you do, you set out to be successful. And then you're almost like blaming the success, the thing that you were setting out to accomplish, for not being able to do the other things that you want to do. But people don't really think of it. Like, you have to sometimes like detach.
You want the business to work for you. Like, you don't want to be like caught up in the business. Yeah. And then you're going to blame the business and have all this, hate towards the business.
So when you started to like really travel a lot and your business is growing and doing all these different things, like, was there a part of you that was hesitant to take these trips and do these things while all of these deals were going on?
I mean, it's kind of like ebbed and flowed, where I've been like, super in business mode. And then I'm like super into like peaceful monk mode. And like, I've had these up and downs like throughout my trajectory. But now I'm like way more like level headed, where I'm like, all right, I should do like 5 trips a year. And then I have one I'm looking forward to. And I like kind of space it out, where I'm like, all right, I have this and this and this, something to always look forward to. And I'm never feeling like I'm working too much. I never feel like I'm traveling too much. But there was a lot of like, give and take back in the day. But I've always kind of had the mindset of like, I know I can make more money, but I can't make more time. Right. So I'm like, if I don't go and do this trip now, like, when am I going to do it? Because I have all these other trips I want to do as well. So I'm like, I can't put this off, because I just won't have time to do it again, because I want to do this next year and this and this and this.
And I'd have to imagine that detaching has helped your business, right?
Oh, for sure,
It probably, frees up your mind for creativity, and it kind of recharges you. It prevents burnout.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I mean, those trips and stuff, they're so rejuvenating, and like, it just opens your mind up to like the world. You're like the world is such a beautiful place. You're like, you want to work more so you could do more of that, What's
your favorite trip been so far?
Oh, there's been so many, dude. Like, the Japan one was awesome. I really liked Peru. I liked Hawaii's awesome. Yeah. I liked the Canadian Rockies were awesome. Where else? Greece is awesome. French Alps are awesome.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool places.
That's awesome. And very different places, I feel like, very different destinations.
Yeah. Well, I like to do like more like adventure trips. Like I like to hike and snowboard and, you know, do those types of things. So I'll like try to do like a challenging hike on some of these trips and stuff. Like I don't like to go and just like sit on the beach.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like if any of your audience hasn't read Die with Zero, excellent book.
Haven't read that one.
Oh, dude, such a good book.
It's good?
Yeah, he talks about like there's different like seasons in your life. Mm-hmm. So he's like, yeah, you know, if you want to, if backpacking through Europe is on your bucket list, like you don't want to do that when you're 40 or 50, when you have kids and a family. Like that's not the season for that trip. Like the season for that is when you're young and you don't have any obligations and you don't have much to lose.
Right.
And then like, you know, there's a different season for like hanging out with your kids on the beach in Punta Cana. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to like screw up the order.
I see what you're saying. No, that makes sense. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's again, optimizing for like the maximum enjoyment of that.
Exactly.
When it makes sense to do it.
Yeah. You don't want to be like sitting on the beach when you're 21 and then trying to do Everest Base Camp when you're 60, you know, like it doesn't make sense.
And it's funny that, you know, that's a great example because I always say like everything's obvious in the extremes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, it's when you kind of narrow the gap between the extreme and the not so like that, it becomes less evident. But like saying that, like sitting on the beach at 20 and trying to, you know, hike the biggest mountain in the world at 60 doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that's a cool way of looking at things.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important for everyone to look at their life, you know, in anything that they want to do in the same light, you know?
Yeah. So what's next for you in terms of business? Do you have, like, what are your goals in terms of, are you trying to scale your business? Are you trying to grow your team? Are there any specific things that you really are like, this is the next big thing?
So I'd like to scale my business as much as I can and keep the same amount of like chill and peace as I can. So, and freedom for the most part. So yeah, I mean, I'm super happy with like the amount of business I'm doing now. And if I could just do like a couple more deals every year, like year over year, then I'm happy with that. And I really like don't feel like I need to do like go crazy to try to do that. You know, like I feel like that will definitely just come naturally as far as like more experience and learning more and just doing more business. All those things will come. So yeah, I definitely want to grow the business, but yeah, we'll see what happens, you know?
Very predictable, stable growth.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not one of those guys where I'm like, oh, I want to be a billionaire and I want to do this and that and that. Cause then I'm like, well, then I'm not going to have time to do all these other things.
Right.
You know? I'm going to be like kind of trapped by that. You know, I want to make just as much and a little more than I need, you know?
Do you look at scaling in your business as a deals based, like number of transactions or like a volume? So, you know, instead of, I don't know what your average deal volume is in terms of price point. But like, okay, let's say your average is 500,000.
Yeah. We're more like probably 250 on average.
Okay. So do you look at scaling from like a number of transactions or like we're going to do slightly bigger deals?
All I care about is how much money I make at the end of the year. Like I'd rather do less deals and make more money. So like if I could do like, you know, 5 deals and make $100,000 each, like cool. Or if I could do 10 at $100,000 each, then we're talking.
Then you're sitting pretty.
You know, I'd rather do that than like, you know, 50 deals at $20,000 each. You know, so the volume doesn't matter to me at all. All that matters is like how much money I make at the end of the year. And like if that number is going up year over year, whether that's like buying more rentals, now I have more rental income. Or more flips or whatever like that. Yeah. You know, that's what I would, you know, gauge it by.
It makes sense. You're going right down to the simplest thing. What do I make? That's all I care about. Exactly. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah. Like I track that at the end of the year. I'm like, oh, how many deals did I do? Cause usually the more deals you do, the more you're going to make. But yeah, the money at the end of the year is the most important.
So you put out, I'll kind of change gears a little bit. You put out a lot of content on social media. You know, I think I saw earlier, I was looking at your account, you have like over 900 posts or something like that, which is a big number when you really think.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So is that intentional or was that like, oh, you know what, I just think this is cool. I'm going to like make some videos and showcase the properties. And obviously you've got some great travel, you know, content as well. But, you know, is that like a planned intentional thing or?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes I just like post because I'm feeling it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll even post like some sort of like inspirational thing or something that's on my mind. Like my Instagram's kind of all over the place. Like you'll be like, oh, this dude's like, you know, traveling. And then he's like, oh wait, but he's doing real estate. Like,
yeah, but it's kind of cool because you've created like this travel and like real estate brand, right?
Yeah,
so like
yeah,
your
yeah.
brand is focused on like, I do real estate deals and I like travel the world to sick places and like showcase that. And it kind of goes along with like your whole thing for optimizing for basically enjoyment in your life and maximizing everything.
Yeah, well, I try to like practice what I preach, you know, and like put out good vibes on there and kind of like try to inspire people to also like do fun things. Cause I know I have seen like, I've gotten a lot of travel ideas and destinations that I want to go to from Instagram. Yeah. So I try to like put out stuff on there that will inspire other people to like be successful and also like enjoy the success. So that's really like, if there was like a purpose to it, that would be it. But like, you know, I try to post when I do. And then some, like right now I don't have Instagram. So I'm like, I need to take, like I was sick a couple weeks ago and I was just on Instagram like all day. And I'm like, all right, I need a month off. Like I need to just chill. So yeah, that's another thing. It's like an ebb and flow. So like sometimes I'll post heavy and then sometimes like I need a break.
Yeah. Well, these guys here, they always say content's got to do one of three things: either educate, entertain, or inspire.
Yeah.
So you kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I mix it up in there, in those three.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you read or mentioned a lot of the books that you've read. Favorite book for, let's do this. 2 favorite books.
2
favorite book for life in general, like optimizing for happiness.
Yeah.
And favorite book business wise.
All right. Yeah. I mean, 4-Hour Workweek is my favorite business book.
Yep.
And then favorite like lifestyle. Oof. It's tough. I mean, that Die with Zero book is really good. Like,
I'm gonna read that now because I haven't heard of that one.
And a lot of these are like that book I read not that long ago, so it's close proximity. You know, if you want to learn, like if you just want to learn something different, like The Selfish Gene is a very good book.
Interesting.
It's
That's
all
another
about
one
psychology.
I haven't heard about.
Oh, so good. Like really good book. It's all psychology and genes and how we evolved and stuff. Like you'll learn a lot. Like if you want to like sit down and read a heavy book where you're like learning, that's a good book.
Interesting.
I would encourage everyone to read that also.
Read or audiobooks?
I read. If I'm audio, it's mostly podcasts.
That checks out. You've got like, I'm just like seeing you, like you're out, you're traveling, you're like reading these books, you know, and then you're coming back and you're hustling and it's like, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I like the reading, I'm like on and off with too. Like I'll read heavy for like a month or two and then I'm like, then I just don't.
You know, sometimes you kind of just need to shut your brain off.
Yeah.
Right?
You do. You really do.
Sometimes I'm the same way. And I spend a lot of time in the car. So I'm typically like podcasts and audiobooks, but a lot of the time I'll buy the physical book too, because I do really like to actually read and be able to, you know, focus in on like the key things that you really want to like take away from the book. But like sometimes you're just like, I can't put a podcast. I just need to like listen to some music or just silence and just be alone with your thoughts and think and like.
Well, there's so much content overload these days where it's like you can literally listen to a podcast all day long, and now like you go on YouTube and it's like it's all clickbait stuff now, so you like almost have to click it.
Your brain is like trained now to like touch and click on every single video, and then you get like these 15-second clips that just get you hooked, and then you're just scrolling. Yeah,
there's all these like dopamine triggers and stuff, so like you kind of need to detox from all that stuff at some point. You know, once in a while, it's good to just chill. Yeah, listen to a little music. Like, don't feed the brain so much. Yeah.
So for the audience who doesn't know you, how can they connect with you? How can they find you?
Instagram's probably the best spot. It's Devon Buys Houses, Devon Buys Houses. That's probably the easiest place to get me.
Cool. And you will partner with people if they bring you good deals.
Come on.
Or buy them from them.
Hit me in the DMs and we'll do some business for sure.
That's awesome.
I'll help you out in any way I can. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out, man. It was a pleasure having you on.
This was fun, man. I'm glad you had me out.
Yeah, we definitely got to do this again.
For sure.